To start off this rock candy experiment, I'm going to use 2 cups of water. Next, I'm going to use 4 cups of sugar, which I will pour in individually, 1 cup at a time. And then after I pour in 1 cup into the mixture in the pan, I will stir it thoroughly. And for this experiment, I'm using 2 mason jars, which each mason jar will be used for different methods and ways of completing this. And the first mason jar would be for the skewer, in which after I make the syrup, I'll dip it in the syrup and then leave it on a plate overnight, and then continue the steps of what I would do for the regular one, which I'm going to do with the second mason jar, and which I'm going to pour water on a skewer and do it how the video told me to do it, and just leave it in the jar with it wet after I coated them with sugar with water. And I'll leave that overnight to see how the 2 ways compare and how fast and how much it grows compared to each different method. I'm also going to be using 2 of these skewers for the experiment, and I don't have any paper, any pins or clothespins, but I do have these clips, and I'm going to use that. I'm going to tie it. I'm going to clip them over the skewer, and I'm going to place them on top of the mason jars, and I will cover them with plastic wrap. Okay. Now we're going to move on to step. My step 1 was rinsing out the mason jars with hot water to clean them, and I am preparing to roll 1 of these skewers in sugar with water, and another I am going to make the syrup in step 2 and put it in both of the mason jars and coat one with the syrup, and then I'll take that one out, roll it in that same sugar over there, and set it out and leave it overnight to formulate. And yeah, that's step 1. My step 2, I am going to pour the water into the medium pan that I have. And I am going to boil this water. Okay, now the water is boiling, and I'm going to add 1 cup of sugar at a time and mix it in until it's dissolved. Okay, now I've finished boiling the water and adding the sugar, and I let it cool down on the stove for about 10 minutes, and then I poured it into the jars. So now the syrup is in the jars. So I took 1 of the skews and I dipped it in the syrup, and I rolled it around in the sugar, and I placed it on a plate. And this one is going to stay overnight, and then I'm going to put it in one of these jars in the morning. This one is with water, and I am going to place them on put this one in one of the jars right now, and then I'm going to clip it, and I'm going to leave the skew about not touching the bottom, but close to it. I would say 1 inch from the bottom. From the video, it told me to say it said 1 inch from the bottom. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to add the clips, and then I'm going to add the wrap, plastic wrap on top of it to make sure nothing else gets inside of it while the sugar is crystallizing. And the reason why we are putting the sugar on the skews right now is so that when I put it in the syrup, the sugar has something to stick to and something to start off of, because it's not going to start out directly off of the skew itself. So it has to start off of sugar. So these formulas are basically made of sugar, so they're mostly made of sugar than water. So they need to stick to sugar, and this will help spark it to make the candy, the rock candy. Okay, now I'm going to do that, and okay, so I put this skewer into the first mason jar, and I discovered something as I was putting the skewer into the syrup. All of the sugar that I had on it fell down to the bottom. But after multiple tries of coating, and I thought that I layered it too thickly on the skewer, but that's not the case. When I lightly sprinkled it on it, the sugar still fell off. Now, I don't know if it's going to affect it or not, but let's see. I will try it again tomorrow. But my other skewer is still over here. It's going to stay overnight, and then I'll put that one in the other one in the morning. And I'm going to attempt at a time lapse, but I'm not sure how that one will go. Okay, day 1 completed. So I took the stick with sugar and I placed it in the reboiled formula, this larger one, and nothing happened to this one overnight. So I'm going to try to restart this one, and then let's see what goes from it, and then time lapse it. Okay, so the first batch that I made didn't work, and the the mason jar to the far left is the original version, not of the water. When I dipped the stick in the syrup and I let it sit out overnight with the sugar on top of it, and then I placed it in there in the jar with the rest of the syrup. Doesn't seem to be anything. Doesn't seem to look like anything is happening. So I'll let that go for the next 5 days. But today I really got angry and I looked up a video online and looked up different ways to do it. And I just took the syrup I had right now and I put it back in the pan and I boiled it for about 10 minutes to evaporate the rest, not the rest, but a lot of the water already inside of it. So there's more sugar inside of it than there is water. And that was about 2 hours ago, and it already looks like it's forming crystals. I mean, if I look on top, it looks like it's formed sugars rather than the other one. I know the plastic wrap is on top of it, but it doesn't look like anything has happened compared to this one. Yeah, so I'll time lapse this for day 2. Today is the 5th and final day. Well, actually not the 5th day because I forgot to plug it in last night. So I made it up, but the time lapses are correct. So here it goes. I'm going to pull it out. The clips make it really easy. And I think I beat you, Miss Ernest, with mine. Mine looks... Yeah, I think I'd win. I don't know. I'm gonna put it back in. And I'm gonna leave it in there for a while. But this one...
When did you take it out of there?
didn't really work, so there's that.